Have you ever wondered why the book of Leviticus contains so many sacrifices? Why did God command the Israelites to bring bulls, sheep, goats, birds, flour, and oil to the altar? Were these offerings simply ancient religious rituals, or did they point to something much greater? Many people skip the book of Leviticus because it seems complicated. Yet hidden within its pages is one of the most powerful pictures of God's holiness, humanity's need for forgiveness, and the coming of Jesus Christ. Today, we are uncovering the meaning behind the offerings described in Leviticus chapters 1 through 4. By the end of this journey, you will understand why every sacrifice mattered and how each one reveals God's plan of redemption. Before we begin, imagine yourself standing outside the tabernacle in the wilderness. The air is filled with the smell of burning sacrifices. Priests dressed in holy garments move carefully around the bronze altar. Families arrive carrying animals from their flocks. Some come with joy and thanksgiving. Others come with sorrow over their sins. Every offering tells a different story. Every sacrifice reveals another part of God's character. Let us begin with the first offering. The burnt offering. Leviticus chapter 1 introduces the burnt offering. Unlike many other sacrifices, the entire animal was placed on the altar and completely consumed by fire. Nothing was kept for the worshipper. Nothing was taken home. Everything belonged to God. The worshipper brought a bull, a sheep, a goat, or if they were poor, a dove or pigeon. The animal had to be without defect. It represented purity and perfection. The worshipper laid a hand upon the animal's head before it was sacrificed. This act symbolized identification. The innocent animal died in the place of the guilty worshipper. Its blood was sprinkled around the altar. Its body was carefully prepared and completely burned before the Lord. The rising smoke symbolized a life totally surrendered to God. The burnt offering was not mainly about asking for blessings. It was about complete devotion, worship, and atonement. Centuries later, Jesus Christ would become the perfect and final sacrifice, offering himself completely to the Father. Just as the burnt offering was wholly consumed, Jesus gave everything for humanity. The grain offering. Leviticus chapter 2 introduces a different kind of offering. No blood was shed. Instead, the people brought fine flour mixed with olive oil and frankincense. Sometimes it was baked into cakes. Sometimes it was cooked on a griddle or in a pan. Part of the grain offering was burned on the altar as a memorial before God. The remaining portion became food for the priests. God gave specific instructions. No yeast was allowed because yeast often represented sin and corruption. Every offering had to be seasoned with salt, symbolizing God's everlasting covenant. Honey was also excluded because it spoiled quickly. This offering expressed gratitude. It recognized that every harvest, every loaf of bread, and every blessing came from God. It reminded Israel that worship involved not only animals, but also the fruit of human labor. The grain offering points us to Jesus, the bread of life, who nourishes every soul that comes to him. The fellowship offering. Leviticus chapter 3 introduces the fellowship offering, also called the peace offering. This sacrifice celebrated friendship between God and his people. Unlike the burnt offering, only certain portions were burned upon the altar. The priests received a share. The worshipper and family often ate the remaining meat together in a sacred meal. It was a celebration of peace, gratitude, and restored fellowship. Whether offered because of thanksgiving, fulfillment of a vow, or simple voluntary worship, it declared that the worshipper was enjoying communion with God. The richest portions, the fat surrounding the internal organs, belonged exclusively to the Lord. God instructed his people never to eat the blood because blood represented life. Every meal connected with this offering reminded Israel that peace with God was a priceless gift. Today, Jesus Christ is our peace. Through his sacrifice, those who believe are welcomed into fellowship with God. The sin offering. Leviticus chapter 4 introduces the sin offering. Unlike the previous offerings, this sacrifice focused on sins committed unintentionally. God understood that people sometimes failed without realizing it. Yet even unintentional sin affected their relationship with him. The type of sacrifice depended on the person's position. If the high priest sinned, he offered a young bull. If the whole nation sinned, they also brought a bull. If a tribal leader sinned, he offered a male goat. If an ordinary Israelite sinned, a female goat or lamb was acceptable. The worshipper placed a hand upon the animal before it was sacrificed. The priest applied the blood according to God's instructions. Some blood was placed on the horns of the altar. Some was poured out at its base. The remaining parts were burned or taken outside the camp, depending on the type of offering. This sacrifice emphasized that sin always has consequences. No one was above God's standard. Priests, leaders, and ordinary citizens all needed forgiveness. The sin offering pointed toward Jesus Christ, who bore the sins of the whole world. He suffered outside the city, just as parts of the sin offering were taken outside the camp. His blood accomplished what the blood of animals could never permanently achieve. What these offerings teach us. The offerings of Leviticus were never empty rituals. They taught Israel about God's holiness. They revealed the seriousness of sin. They reminded people that forgiveness required sacrifice. Each offering pointed forward to Jesus Christ. The burnt offering revealed complete surrender. The grain offering expressed gratitude and dedication. The fellowship offering celebrated peace with God. The sin offering provided cleansing and forgiveness. Together they formed a beautiful picture of God's plan to restore humanity. When Jesus died on the cross, he fulfilled every sacrifice. He became the perfect offering once and for all. No more animals were needed. No repeated sacrifices were required. His death opened the way for everyone to come boldly before God. The message of Leviticus is still alive today. God desires holy people. He desires thankful hearts. He desires restored fellowship. He offers forgiveness to everyone who comes to him in faith. The sacrifices may belong to ancient Israel, but their message continues to change lives around the world. The next time you read the book of Leviticus, remember that every altar, every priest, every sacrifice, and every drop of blood points to one glorious truth. God made a way for sinners to come home. And that way is Jesus Christ.